Faded Glory, the Fugitive of Madrid. The bells of the Almudena Cathedral tolled their slow, sorrowful dirge over the streets of Madrid. A city once bursting with life had turned into a place of fear for Magdalena Ortiz. She had been a journalist, a writer, a voice for the voiceless, until her words crossed the invisible red line of Europe's ruling class. She had spoken out against the unchecked radical Islamization of Spain, the criminal dealings of high-ranking officials, and the secret affair between a bloated Spanish politician and an Austrian Islamist leader. That was enough to earn her a death sentence. She had been condemned under the guise of hate speech laws, but the truth was clear. She had embarrassed those in power. For that, the Spanish parliament itself ordered her to be stoned to death in public. The last journalist who had dared to speak out had been silenced before his story could even make it past the censors. She had only one chance: escape. But she wasn't alone. She had found her children, not by blood, but by love. 4 outcasts left to rot in the shadows of Madrid. Javier, the misunderstood genius, whose ability to see patterns and predict outcomes made him invaluable and a target. His autism made the world confusing, but Magdalena made it safe. Lucia, a firebrand with a warrior's heart, always ready to defend her new mother. Mateo is silent and withdrawn, but deadly in his ability to disappear in a crowd. Isabella, the youngest, fragile in body but sharp in mind, can memorize every face, every street, and every potential danger. They had no place in the new Europe. To the authorities, they were unwanted. But Magdalena had loved them, and they had loved her. Now, they ran. Escape from Spain. They made it through the streets of Madrid as black-suited Guardia Civil officers and Interpol operatives hunted them down. They moved through the underground tunnels beneath the Plaza Mayor, dodging checkpoints, evading drones, and avoiding the Islamic community patrols that now enforced religious law in parts of the city. Magdalena had a fortune hidden away. Millions upon millions stored in accounts she had carefully protected. But none of that mattered if she didn't make it out alive. She bribed a smuggler, promising him riches beyond his imagination. He delivered, a cargo ship bound for America. They boarded under false names, tucked away in a hidden compartment near the engine room, barely breathing as Spanish operatives scanned the ship, barking in German-accented Spanish. The European Union was sending its own teams now, mercenaries working under Brussels' command, led by German intelligence. She whispered to her children to be silent. The ship departed. They had escaped Spain, but Europe would not let them go so easily. Arrival in America, Jacksonville, Florida. Carlos had seen his fair share of refugees, men and women fleeing from tyranny, from oppression, from wars that no one wanted to acknowledge. But he had never seen a woman like Magdalena Ortiz before. He found her in the back alley behind a gas station, bruised, bloodied, and holding a crying child in her arms. She was starving and exhausted. Her once proud and unbreakable face was now covered in grime, but her eyes burned with defiance. Carlos knelt beside her, offering his hand. "Who did this to you?" She hesitated, glancing at her children. Javier clung to her sleeve while Lucia stood in front, ready to fight despite her small frame. "They came for me," she whispered. "They will come again." Carlos didn't need to ask who they were. He had seen it before. The globalists, the bureaucrats, the elites who preached tolerance while crushing dissent. And now, they were sending their hounds after this woman and her children. He helped them to his safe house, not knowing who she really was, not knowing that she was a millionaire, not knowing that the EU had sent assassins to bring her back. The showdown in Jacksonville. It happened 3 nights later. Carlos had just finished securing a flight for Magdalena and the children to an undisclosed location when he saw them, 3 black sedans, a van, and a motorcycle moving through the streets like a pack of wolves. The Germans had arrived. They struck fast. Gunmen in black tactical gear stormed the safe house, automatic weapons raised. Carlos fired first. The fight erupted in the streets of Jacksonville, bullets tearing through parked cars, shattering windows, and sending civilians running in every direction. One of the Germans grabbed Magdalena, trying to drag her into the van. She bit him, driving a knife into his thigh. Javier, with his photographic memory, had studied the layout of the streets. He shouted directions to Carlos, leading him into perfect ambush positions. Lucia fought with a makeshift weapon, slashing at the mercenaries. Mateo disappeared into the shadows, picking pockets, disabling weapons, sabotaging their escape routes. Isabella memorized the enemies' faces, whispering their details to Carlos as he took them down individually. Carlos fought like a demon, his rifle barking, his sidearm finding its mark with every shot. The Germans didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect the street fighters of Jacksonville to push back. The van exploded in a hail of bullets. The mercenaries fell. The last sedan tried to escape, but Carlos put a bullet through its windshield, sending it crashing into a storefront. Silence. Magdalena stood in the middle of the street, shaking, staring at the bodies of those who had come to take her back. She looked at Carlos, her eyes filled with gratitude and defiance. "You saved us." Carlos holstered his weapon. "You're in America now. They don't own you anymore." Magdalena took her children's hands. For the first time in a long time, she believed it. She was free.